Ah,
That one's mine, right?
correct.
All right.
It was so nice. Yes. See, that's
Welcome to our program. We're glad you're all here. Uh, Thank you so much for coming. And so thank you so much for coming. Um, and among everyone here, I mean, who here doesn't love to spend a summer night listening to music at Ravinia? I think we all do. And it's great to have Jeff Haydon, the CEO of Ravinia, for about 5 years, here to talk about this area gem. And Jeff grew up in the Bay Area, where he went to many symphonies and jazz performances. And he has since worked for the Aspen Music Festival. He raised money for the Chicago Symphony Orchestra. He served as the executive director of the Ojai Music Festival, and he's had other roles before he came to the Midwest. And I wanted to share a quote I found about what Jeff thinks about music. He said, "Music is a universal language that inspires each of us to come together, to listen more deeply, and to explore new ideas." Jeff, the stage is yours.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much, David. Thank you so much for being here. I think if it's okay, I'm just going to, I don't think anybody's on the Zoom. I'm going to double check that. And if not, we're just going to be a little freer about this. How's that? Not get tied down. It's such a pleasure to be here, and thanks so much for inviting me and for spending some time on this beautiful day to be here. I know a lot of you are very familiar with Ravinia, but my hope is that you'll end up learning a few new things about Ravinia and understanding how more of the pieces come together. What I've done is just put together kind of a three-part talk. The first part is just a little bit of background about Ravinia that you may not necessarily know. The second part is you heard that we might have a small renovation project that we're undertaking right now. And so a little insight into that. And then third, just give you a little bit more insight into the upcoming season. And I know some of you have had a chance to look and purchase tickets, but maybe if I do my job right, you'll walk away and you want to buy one or two more concerts or invite some other people to come with you. So if you haven't, and if you do want that, we do have schedules back there and we do have Sharpies back there. And if anybody wants to, just raise your hand and my lovely wife, Catherine, would be happy to give one to you. So with that, I'm just going to go ahead and jump in here. You know, with everything, you have to start with your purpose, you know, why you're here. And this is something that became very important to us as I started in September of 2020 at Ravinia when everything was shut down with the pandemic. And so our team spent a little bit of time thinking about, well, why do we do what we do? And this is a very simple statement, but it's very powerful and it guides a lot of our work. And I'll just read it to you. We believe in the power of shared live music moments to inspire ourselves, our communities, and the world. And think about that, particularly in the context of 2020, a shared experience, a moment that you're curating, that you're creating for everybody, something that's inspirational, both for you personally, for those around you, and for the world. And I think that does a pretty good job of describing what Ravinia is. You know, we're not a network streaming facility. We're not a roadhouse. We're something that has a lot of thought behind all of it. Ravinia has 4 different components. A lot of people know, of course, the big summer music festival with Chicago Symphony Orchestra in residence and a lot of the other pop acts that end up coming through. Not enough people know about our Reach, Teach, Play program, which is our music education and community engagement program. And I'll talk to you a little bit more about that in a second. And the Staines Institute, which trains the next generation of musicians. It's been going since 1988 and is currently being headed by Midori, a very famous violinist. And the park itself is actually part of our mission. You notice that it may be a little bit different than United Center or Tinley Park or things like that, and that's on purpose because decades and decades of leaders have felt that this is a very important place to be beautiful and to maintain that, and so we invest heavily into that as a result of it. So when you talk about Ravinia, we put it in context of all of our peers. And this is a group of festivals that we all get together with in the fall each year. And you've heard of some of them like Tanglewood, Hollywood Bowl, Wolf Trap. And they're all things that we have in common, but Ravinia actually stands out singularly compared to all of those. So the things that we have in common, we're all nonprofits. We all have a classical music foundation or a genesis. But from there, a lot of the differences start to appear. Some of these are owned or operated by the resident orchestra. So Tanglewood is owned and operated by the Boston Symphony. Hollywood Bowl is operated by the LA Philharmonic. Some of these are on government land and they're a partnership with a form of government. So Hollywood Bowl is the LA County. Wolf Trap, of course, is the federal government. And so and the Mann Center is in Philadelphia. And so you've got the Philadelphia city government that's there. We also have the biggest music education program of all of these. And that's a huge part of our mission. We also have one of the two largest early professional training programs of all of these as well. Tanglewood would be the other one that we have. And some of them do have pop music, but they actually contracted out to Live Nation and they literally move out of their venue for weeks at a time and Live Nation takes over the venue. We have none of that. We are 100% independent, which means that if the roof breaks, we have to fix it too. And we're a national destination. Well, of course, we're a favorite of the Midwest. We get people that buy tickets from all over. And this was actually from 2021. People weren't traveling as much then. So we need to update this because it's certainly a lot more. But that was actually all 50 states even in 2020, believe it or not. Reach, Teach, Play. This is really quite a miracle of the organization and has been going for well over 20 years. We are the music program for over 20,000 students throughout Chicagoland. A lot of work is done in Austin and in Lawndale on the west side of Chicago, but we also have a huge footprint up in Waukegan as well. And in these three areas, we actually have started up youth orchestras, which are modeled after the Sistema program. And we put instruments in kids' hands. We give them music lessons. They rehearse. For those in Waukegan, they don't really have a facility up there. So we bus them from Waukegan down to Ravinia. And they rehearse in Bennett Gordon Hall 4 days a week. So it's really fun to see all the kids running around and they know and love the place here. And we also give them free tickets to come to concerts. So they're at the orchestra concert, they're at the John Legend concert, they're at the jazz concerts. They're seeing everything, which is great. And you can see here that we're within about a 60-mile radius of Ravinia. So even though we have our three areas of focus, we go almost to Indiana, we go almost all the way to Wisconsin, and we're not quite out to Iowa, but we're going pretty far west as well. And the Staines Institute, this is really an impressive accomplishment for the organization. This was one of the early bold visions of the first executive director, Ed Gordon, who said if we're going to be known as a serious organization, we need to have a serious, basically summer conservatory. And since then, it has cranked out some of the finest musicians in the world. Yu Wang is one of them. Lang Lang's another one, and I could go on, but this year alone, 16 of our alum were nominated for Grammys. So I think that fact alone just says what the impact is that we're having in the field. I would dare say, don't tell the Chicago Symphony this, but these are some of the best concerts in the summertime. You've got 20-something-year-olds who are technically amazing and they have a fire in their belly, and you're in Bennett Gordon Hall, which seats only 400 people, and they are just so exciting. Many of them are free, and very little cost. So take a look at the calendar, and maybe that's one of your discoveries, is challenge yourself to look at one of those and come to one of those concerts, because they're really exciting. So like any good organization, we've been undertaking a lot of strategic planning. And I would say this is actually a strength of Ravinia. As I've worked at a couple of other organizations, I think Ravinia has done this the best, where we really look at long-term planning. And so obviously the last several years have been a lot of change going on in the world and a lot of change at Ravinia. And so we took a step back to say, okay, what's the state of Ravinia and the state of the state here? And so these were things that, I'm just going to move over here for something different. These are the things that we're seeing that we need to be focused on to do a little bit, to make sure that we get to where we want to go going forward. We always want to make sure that we are supporting our classical music and helping to make it thrive. We always want to be building audiences. And audiences at Ravinia are interesting because you have the longtime classical audience, but you also have a very strong, pop audience, and you have a very strong Latino audience, and a very strong Black audience, and a very strong family audience. And what's interesting is they're going to each other's shows now. They're not just going to their own shows, they're going to each other's shows. And so that doesn't happen at any other place that I've seen so far. The experience is really important. Obviously, the park we invest in heavily, but all those other pieces of the experience. Engagement, people are looking for meaningful ways to be engaged. We're inundated with the digital environment all the time. How can this be an authentic, genuine experience that we're offering? We're seeing where right here, philanthropy is changing quite a bit, and Ravinia depends considerably on philanthropy, not just perks. And so we need to make sure that we're staying ahead of that, and we can evolve. And then our facilities, we have a beautiful park and a lot of great facilities, but some of them are quite old, and we'll talk about that as well. And so this is just a fun little map of the park itself. One of the questions that I asked at our season preview event was, how many stages does Ravinia have? Of course, this is an open book test right now, you can see, but most people don't know it's actually 6. Most people will say 3. So of course you have the pavilion, you have the Market Theater, and Bennett Gordon Hall. And a couple of years ago, we put a little wooden stage on our kids' lawn over here, and so we've been doing a lot of work there. We cleared out the carousel from the ice cream, and we've been doing a lot of bluegrass and fun shows there to sort of a general audience here without seating. And then this summer, we're very excited that in the music box, we're going to be reopening that theater for live music performance in the Sandra K. Crown Theater. And we have a couple of really exciting shows, which I'll tell you about as well in there. So that's going to be our newest venue that we're going to be opening up. But the big 3 venues here, these are all at least 40 years, if not 70 years, since they had a renovation. And so that was kind of an aha moment for all of us as we were going through all of our planning to say, the world of performance has changed quite a bit in 40 years, let alone 75 years. And so now is the time that we really need to make sure that we're focused on how do we make sure all of our stages are state of the art and up to date, not only now, but going forward for future generations. And so we've been embarking on an effort to raise money to update all of our stages. And so I'm going to show you the first big project, and a huge part of it is actually the pavilion. And so I'm going to start off with just a quick couple-minute video just to give you a little bit of insight on that. The pavilion is the center, it's the soul, it's the lifeblood of everything that happens at Ravinia. It's where the Chicago Symphony is, the orchestra in residence in the summertime. It's where the community gathers for graduations and events. It's where state alumni end up performing as today's stars. It is where Reach Teach Play ends up having its big performances, and all of our students end up making their memories. Ravinia was reopening the pavilion after the pandemic. We started recognizing that it wasn't operating as well as it did earlier. And over the next couple of years of studying it, we recognized that not only do we need to replace equipment, but there was a lot of renovation that needed to take place in order to position Ravinia to thrive going forward and produce the events that we need to produce.
So I think the audience experience in the new pavilion is going to be one of almost making it. There's a newness that's going to come. And this is going to feel like turning over a new, I think it's going to be more comfortable. The seating certainly is, the aisleway, the access, the sight lines are going to be better, and the acoustics. When Ravinia was initially founded, the architect that they had worked on it, Peter Joseph Weber, was responsible for the Tyler Gate, just still here, Martin Theater. There were facets of some of the features of the buildings that he did influenced what I wanted to do in the architecture that I was adding. Really wanted to have it speak to Ravinia's past and connect to that tree wood again, and to pick up on the geometry of those art glass windows that are still at the Martin Theater. There's a series of panels that are going to hang over the new stage, that reinterpretation of that geometry, and then there are new walls that back up the stage when it's the orchestra performing. That is a different kind of reading of geometry, those spark glass windows. Because Ravinia is such a unique, special place, the architecture should be equally unique and special to this place.
Every great organization is constantly looking at how to improve. Great organizations never sort of become stagnant or complacent. And Ravinia is a really great organization. If you look at the institution over time, this nonprofit organization, that it is always pushed to looking forward.
Ravinia holds a very special place in everybody's heart. Everybody has memory of coming to Ravinia with family, with friends. This is part of summertime. This is the community's asset, and we're excited to be able to update them. So we're really excited about the pavilion coming up, and I do have to thank Tom and their family. They were right there at the very beginning when this was just sort of a need that sort of appeared, and they were looking for that legacy gift for their parents, and they were able to join us at the very beginning before we've even defined what it was to make that gift. And so thank you very much for helping to make that happen. So just to give you a quick overview, that's what it looks like now. And this is what artists see when they show up now. And I should say last year, because now it actually looks different. And that's what they're going to see when artists show up actually this summer. So we broke this down into two phases. And so we did everything that's behind the scenes this year. Because this is the complicated stuff where you get water mains and electrical and asbestos and all those fun things that you never want to run into. We ran into them all. And then, you know, as you're going around here, just to create a few more fun spaces, like for instance, pulling out the garden and having a meet and greet area for artists and audiences, you know, to be able to talk and meet with each other. And then, of course, once you're in this beautiful pavilion, to be able to see. We actually were just up in Minneapolis. I guess somebody just joined. We were just in Minneapolis a few weeks ago and saw the mock-up of these panels, and they're gorgeous. It's sort of it's wood veneer, and so I know it looks a little goldy, but it's really a wood veneer there, so it'll be absolutely beautiful. And for those of you who are classical music lovers, this is going to be fantastic for the orchestra. A couple things that I learned even more so. These panels are designed to be 5 pounds per square foot in density. And that means that when you get those really low notes, the low notes will bounce off of there into the audience rather than getting absorbed and going through the pavilion. If you know when you're driving down the street, somebody's got their low notes going, you can hear it, right? So you want it to go out. Now, the other thing is that the Chicago Symphony Orchestra is known for a great brass section, right? But sometimes that can be a little loud on the stage, and particularly with the way the old stage was devised. All of these sound clouds are like bird wings, and some of them they can fold up, they can go up, and they can sort of absorb some of the energy. So it helps to balance the orchestra a little bit better on all of that. And then also the stage is a little bit deeper. So the orchestra doesn't have to be so cramped, particularly if there's a piano soloist or a chorus. And so we worked very closely actually with the orchestra to help redesign this stage, and they're very excited about this, and they're thinking that they're going to feel a little more comfortable here than downtown. So that's good. I said I will never be able to compete with downtown on one thing though. They have 4 walls. I only have one. And then just looking out from the stage, another piece that I think will be really helpful is that this will now be a theater within a theater. So if you can kind of see the row of boxes, it's a little more pronounced because the boxes now will be a little bit higher up, because the new ADA codes require that somebody sitting in a wheelchair needs to be able to see past somebody standing in front of them. So that raises the level of the boxes a little bit, which is great for anybody that wants a box seat, right? But it also creates a little bit more of a separation between the orchestra seating and kind of the parterre or the balcony seating. And so the pavilion has largely always been a little too big for an orchestra concert anyway. It's always been 1,000 seats more than Orchestra Hall. So we can actually sell everything forward, and that's actually the right size for an orchestra audience as well. So I think that will start to feel a little bit better. And of course, with the pop show, you just bring in all the black drapes. So these are the dressing rooms backstage. Has anybody seen any of these dressing rooms before? Yeah, they're not really that memorable. And so we realized that they need to be a little bit more special going forward. And so these are how we're looking for these dressing rooms to look like going forward. I think that'll be a much nicer experience for people. And then, of course, you know, when you come here, it's still going to look and feel like the classic Ravinia Pavilion. And that was one of the important directives to the architect, is we said, we need to gut everything inside, but we're not going to blow it up. We're not going to tear it down. We're not going to rebuild it. We still want to walk up and make it feel and look like Ravinia Pavilion, but just elevated. And I think the architect did a fantastic job of capturing the spirit of all of that, but still keeping what we know and love about all of this. So I'm very excited about all this. So these front-facing pieces you will see in the summer of 2026. So we are actually ending the season early this year on August 31st. Grab a couple of months of construction weather, and then we are not going to start the 2026 season until mid-July 2026. So we can grab some more springtime construction season as well. So that'll be a little different for us. We're going to lose about a third of our season, but it's all for a good cause. So that's what we're doing right now for the pavilion. I would be remiss to say that we are raising money for it. And I know some of you in here have given, and some of you given very generously. But we're at $52 million that we've raised, and our campaign is 75. And so we're now to the place where we're looking for people to help name dressing rooms, to name bricks, to seats, you name it, you got it. And so there are some brochures back there. And if you haven't considered that, we'd love for you to consider helping us out with this project. So the last piece of our talk today is actually just giving you a little bit of insight into the season. So again, if you want, we can grab a season brochure if you want. We've got Ravinia branded Sharpies, and you might even want to circle something that's new for you. So I'm going to start off with this little video here to start off with. There must be a higher heart hidden in the stars, but without it, life is a wasted time. Look inside your heart, and I look inside mine. Bring me a higher, bring me a higher. Different things presents 100 days. One day you can have an opera, another day you can have a pop show, another day you can have a country music. And I think Ravinia is unique in that, but that's also part of its strength. And one of the things that we learned in our strategic planning, which is really fascinating, is that we've actually had a record number of new attendees for classical music concerts over the last several years. And we were trying to figure out, okay, well, where are they coming from? What's happening? And it actually, a lot of them were coming from other concerts. And we found that if they bought a ticket to a pop show and continued to come to Ravinia 4 years in a row, they were 50% likely to try an orchestra concert. But the difference is they were on the lawn, not in the pavilion. And so we would end up with several hundred or even 1,000 of them on the lawn. And it kind of disappears when you've got 2,000 or 3,000 people on the lawn. You don't necessarily notice that. You'd notice it in the pavilion. But that all of a sudden started to get us thinking a little bit about they are coming, they are interested. And part of it is that's maybe an experience that they want to have is on the lawn. But also that kind of gave us a little more impetus for the pavilion renovation because when you look at the pavilion, it's like, okay, well, I can't put a drink in, the seats are uncomfortable, the lighting's a little funny. So, all those things are really helpful. It's like it reinforces all the direction that we're taking right now. So when we look at the season, I always just love to share just some of the statistics here. Chicago Symphony has been coming for 89 years. And I was just down there last night and saw their new music director, Klaus Makela, and he's very excited about coming in 2026. We're going to be finalizing this program tomorrow, actually downtown. And Marin Alsop's going to be continuing her Breaking Barriers. I'll tell you a little bit about that. And we always need to make sure that we're bringing new artists to Ravinia. And it's really fun. Some of these artists, they're really big names. Some of these artists, they're not big names to us, but they're huge names to somebody. And some of them are not big names to anybody, but they will be discovered. And it's really fun to see the super fans that end up coming out to all of these. So this is opening night, and I love this piece. And I was actually in New York talking to some very prominent classical music owners that I knew, and they were all talking about Bruce Liu quite a bit. They couldn't believe that we had him for opening night. And again, it's not necessarily a household name for everybody else, but those that know new, and they were very impressed that we have Bruce Luke coming for opening night. I mentioned the breaking barriers. This is a project that Maren Alsop and I started 4 years ago, and I guess I'm talking, right? It's always trying to pair women composers and conductors with something else in the world. And so this year we're pairing it with women chefs. And so it'll be a very delicious experience. We've got a lot of great chefs that are coming and preparing food to complement the pieces you're going to hear. And the person that we're working with, Molly Ye, you may recognize that last name if you go to the Chicago Symphony a lot, because John Ye is the second clarinetist, and that's his daughter. And she's studying percussion at Juilliard. So this should be really a fun collaboration. So check that out. There are a few concerts related to that. This one is really great. Many of you know the sort of One Book, One Chicago, the Chicago Book Club. Our director of Reach Teach Play, Christine Taylor Conda, about 10 years ago, started her knockoff on it, which is One Score, One Chicago, saying, hey, we can all study the same piece of music. And so she picked Beethoven 7 as a performance that we have. And so we have all of our kids studying Beethoven 7. We're working with youth orchestras around Chicago, studying Beethoven 7. And we have a lot of resources online as well. I'm going to turn this down just because it's an exciting system. So I'm excited about this kind of role that Ravinia can play in just, bringing more awareness to classical music around Chicago. And if you're hungry, the Associates Board has their beer brats Beethoven that night. So, do any of you know Cynthia Revo? Did you know about her a few years ago? No. So, in 2021, she was one of those new debuts at Ravinia, and she was actually for the gala. And I remember trying to stand in front of the women's board saying, this is a really exciting artist. I know you don't know who she is, but you're going to really want her for the gala. And they smiled and nodded, and they were very nice to me. But I don't think they really believed me. And now this year, they realized that, oh, yeah, she was a star. We got her back when. So this is one of the hottest selling concerts that we have right now. And there are still some tickets available, but definitely grab them if you. And I also have to say on that note, she remembered her experience at Ravinia so fondly and called us up in the fall and said, I want to come back and do a show with the orchestra. Will you help me put it together? And I'd love to take this to a few other places. We said, well, we have friends. Well, Strat, Tanglewood. We'll help you. So we put that together for her. Gala, this should be a lot of fun. Kelly O'Hara and Sutton Foster, probably the two biggest names on Broadway right now. And so hopefully you'll get all dressed up and come to the gala and help us support Reach Teach Play. At the very least, come to the concert. It should be a lot of fun, and you'll know a lot of the pieces there. These are probably two of our most famous people coming this year. You've heard of the guy on the left, Lang Lang. And how many of you were actually at that breakout performance at Ravinia, so many years ago? Yes, Bob and Woody win the prize. So if I understand it correctly, I think the day of or the day before, the really famous concert pianist had to cancel. And we ended up bringing a very young Lang Lang for Eschenbach brought him out for his debut, and then thus started the legacy of Lang Lang going forward. So he had his breakout moment here. But what's interesting is there are two things. He did have an injury about a year ago, and so he's been a little careful about taking on really crazy pieces right now. And so he's trying to figure out how he can play in a way that is engaging to people. And his entree into classical music was actually hearing classical music on Disney films. And so he partnered with Disney, and so he's going to do some classical, but he has Disney on there. So this is a great one for kids and grandkids. This guy played at the Royal Wedding in 2019. And so he was supposed to come in 2020, and it's taken us 3 years to get him back because his career has exploded that much since then. He's been booked. Mahler 2, this is probably my favorite Mahler symphony. Yes, Mahler 8 is bigger, but I think this one packs a bigger punch. Great chorus part. This is Chicago Symphony Orchestra at its finest. So, and Janai Brugger is actually a Staines alum as well. So, again, our alumni are the stars of today. And then this is just a collection of some of the performances that are happening in the Martin Theater. I would say that's my favorite venue. It's such a beautiful spot. And to be able to hear classic guitar playing Bach, soprano, she's an alum of Staines. And this pianist also you're going to see him on the stage with Chicago Symphony very soon. So I mentioned that we're opening up the music box for something different. You can't just do a normal thing in there right now. You have to try something a little fun and different. So Dan Tepler trained as a classical pianist. He clearly has some great jazz chops. And he loves sort of that idea of how do you visualize music. And so there will be some visualization in there because we have a lot of technology in that space. And so there's only 100 seats. I think we've already sold half of them out just in the last couple of weeks as just a different way to engage with music. And so that will be one of the fun things that we end up trying out. And kid shows. We always have to do a lot of fun family things. So grandkids, kids. If your grandkids haven't gone to Lori Berkner, they need to go to Lori Berkner. She's like the Taylor Swift of kids concerts. So jazz has had a long history at Ravinia, and that's something that was really important for me to revitalize. Ramsey Lewis, of course, did a lot for jazz in the past, and so we brought in Kurt Elling to be our jazz advisor, and he's done a fantastic job. And so he's helped us curate this whole group of different jazz performances that are going on here. We're listening to Catherine McPhee, who's David Foster's wife, and great Broadway evening, and including Chris Bodie, so it's like a threefer. That's going to be a great night. And then this is another great threefer night too of Latin jazz as well. And we always have to have blues. We're in Chicago. And I would just point out that Ronnie Baker Brooks is a Chicago native. And so everybody's been very excited about seeing him at Ravinia. And these two are legends, and to see them together is pretty rare. And so Ravinia brought them together. And you have to do a little bit of country. So in a way, this is kind of a bookend. This is Maren Morris is making her debut. She's a young country singer, and this is who you're hearing in the background. And she's been selling very well at all of our sister venues, and there's been a lot of interest in her here this year. And then the Nitty Gritty Dirt Band, started by Jackson Brown. And so this is their final tour. So in some ways you get a little bit of Ravinia, the final and the hello, with this. And you just have to have fun big names, Lenny Kravitz, those of us who grew up in the 90s. I would say, the one thing here that's kind of fun is I don't know where let me make sure this for those of you who like the Beach Boys, this is not the Beach Boys playing, but this is when you gather up and some of the stuff here. But Train is actually the modern day Beach Boys. So if you're looking for your substitute, try that out. It's a lot of fun. And then we've got a lot of legacy acts this year as well. Chicago, they keep on going, and it's amazing. They sound great. This one is pretty neat. This is what you're hearing right now. How many of you remember the Allman Brothers? So this is all their kids. Oh my goodness. And they're singing their parents' songs. And I think this is just going to be a really fun night. So maybe that's one you missed. So you can write that one down as well. And I just have to give James Taylor a shout out. James Taylor, of course, came about 10 years ago, and then he came back again last year for the first time in 10 years. and he walked off his sound check. And he said, "Whoa, that was a great sound system." And we said, "Yeah, we just bought it. You're the first one that's actually played on the sound system. It's the very first step in our pavilion renovation." He's like, "This is great. Congratulations. It's really good." And then after 2 nights of Ravinia, as he's walking out, he's like, "So when am I coming back next year?" And I'm like, "Here's the calendar, Mr. Taylor." And so he's coming back. Absolutely. So he's really excited about coming back. And what's interesting about, I mean, most of these shows are selling very, very well, but this is a great example of how Ravinia, I think, has done a really great job at evolving as well. Because last year when we announced our season, we didn't have our full lineup in this genre set, and we got a lot of complaint calls and said, "Hey, wait a minute, we love coming to Ravinia. Why didn't you program anything for us?" And we had a bunch of TBTs on our calendar because they just hadn't all confirmed yet. But to me, it was really amazing to see that it's like, here's a whole other audience that Ravinia has been able to develop, and they love Ravinia as much as everybody else. So I've been really pleased with that. Um, this one's kind of interesting because it's like that's a whole different mashup of different artists. It's like, what on earth could that group have in common? Um, they are all actually playing with orchestra, and some of them with Chicago Symphony, and some of them with Chicago Philharmonic. And a film, of course, we're used to that. Here, Morgan Freeman with blues. That's kind of fun. He's coming and narrating and bringing that. You have this, which is some spoken word. But you've got these others like Lindsey Sterling, who's kind of done a little bit of cross pop classical. And they've all wanted to come and bring their music with orchestra, and we've become really well known for that. Then I mentioned the carousel. This has become very, very popular. If any of you saw the movie with George Clooney, "Oh Brother, Where Art Thou?" Dan Clarence, the Song Brothers there. So, and that's what you're hearing. It's really, it's fun music. So, come and listen to that. And just a lot of fun Latino music as well. It's actually the 30th anniversary of Selena's unfortunate death, and so the family's put together this show, and we'll be there to help celebrate just the amazing work that she ended up doing. And again, Juanes, I did not know who he was, but everybody that listens to Latino music is like, I can't believe that Juanes, like Springsteen or something like that. So you just sort of discover it, and the music's actually quite romantic. And so this is sort of a grab bag of a lot of things. You're hearing Weird Al Yankovic, which is kind of a crazy guy, and he's actually sold out the video. Yeah, it's like the hottest ticket. Go figure. And we got this Indian group, which is fantastic. And then something totally different. It's a choral song. Sings very beautiful music that I would aspire to sing in my highest dreams here. And then, of course, Sound of Music. So this will be a sing-along. Everybody will be required to perform. We're going to bring in opera singers to help bolster the crowd and egg everybody on a little bit. So if you want to relive that Sound of Music or bring somebody else in your family to share it, this would be a perfect night to be able to do that. So I think, with that, we've covered all the different artistic pieces, of Ravinia, and I think just a little bit about just the experience piece of it. And I had a great conversation with Sandy, and just to sort of point out, with parking, obviously, a lot of you end up becoming Opus members or higher in part, to be able to access parking. And we've been really fortunate that a lot of these concerts have sold really, really well. And what's interesting is it's not if they sell out or not that we're parking is a challenge. It's how many sell out to donors versus non-donors, or new audience members versus returning audience members. And so we've been doing a lot of work over the last couple of years to try to get all of our data in order so that we could know in advance who's coming and to be able to understand that, because just because Ravinia sold out doesn't mean, it's going to operate very differently depending on the crowd. And so we've been working really hard to try to help coordinate for parking. So those nights where we can see that it's going to be a little more challenging, to be able to communicate in advance and make sure everybody knows where their spot is and if they have needs to do that. So I ask your assistance in being mystery shoppers and let me know. I'll leave my card out there. And if you see anything that it's working, we love to hear it. If it's not working, we love to hear it as well. We've also been doing a lot of work on our dining as well, and trying to invest more into the customer service piece and collaborating with the Botanic Garden. And they're now using the same purveyor that we have. And so we're starting to share staff, full-time year-round staff, so we can improve the service level. We've engaged a chef now that's been doing a great job and is returning, and really increase the quality of the food in the dining pavilion. And so again, try that out and let me know what you think. So it will always be a little different than going to, Hole in the Wall or Francesca's or something, because they can serve all night long and 365 days of the year. But I think you'll be pleased with the experience that you're going to see. So that's the season overall. Hopefully you did end up finding at least one thing that you didn't know that you liked, that you're interested in trying. And then hopefully, as you heard a little bit about the pavilion, you got a little insight on that. And then about Ravinia overall, a little bit of piece about this great organization that does so many things that not everybody necessarily knows. And so as I just, you have to have sort of the closing fun video. But to me, this is really an amazing tour of Ravinia. You've probably seen drones. So there's a company that did this, and they flew the drone, obviously during the summer. And it's just wild to be able to see Ravinia from this perspective. And they don't shy away from the flagpoles or, any of the other things. I'm like, oh my gosh, really? But for people that haven't been to Ravinia before, it's actually really helpful for them to be able to get a little bit of a tour and understand all the different components of it. And even to recognize that each night at Ravinia will look different. This is one where, it's probably a Sunday evening concert, and so people were there early with their big setups and everything else. Obviously an event up here. I would have crashed the drones both times. We don't always have this giant screen here, but those of you who have seen the movies will put that there. We're trying to figure out, as part of our future building, what the screen needs to go on the lawn at some point, not that big. And we need to figure it out in conjunction with those bathrooms and first aid stations all falling apart. And so in the meantime, we just sort of erect a temporary screen. And someday we'll figure out how best to incorporate that and build that in. On cue with Metro. Touchdown. I think it's just so much fun watching around and seeing all the games. And just talking to people about radio rants. How many of you have tried this reserve lawn? Have you tried that? Has that been helpful? Okay. Yeah, that's been a fun new thing to do. This obviously an opener versus the evening concert. So we're still trying to figure out, there's a lot of success with this, but it's still not, we're still kind of tinkering with it. And so once we feel like we understand what that is, we'll probably build out a little bit more elegant solution in that. But right now, we've got bigger things like the pavilion filled out right now. So I think we are now back at the beginning. So I don't know how long it goes. Okay, thank you very much. I guess I was supposed to take questions too, right? Here, we'll turn off the sound.